Today, I want to share how I discovered my fiancé was cheating just weeks before our planned wedding, leading me to break off the engagement. I'm a 35-year-old guy, and we were engaged for 3 years, aiming to marry in June. We'd been together for over 2 years, starting back in college where we knew each other but weren't close friends. After college, while working on Wall Street, we reconnected at a friend's party and eventually started dating. After 2 years together, I decided it was time to make things official and proposed. At that point, my fiancée was temporarily working at a thrift store with her friend, with no plans to work after marriage. I proposed when I felt financially prepared to support my family. Everything seemed great. We were living together and ready for marriage, until I noticed a change in my fiancée. She started making excuses, avoiding closeness, and attributing it to stress as the wedding approached. When I tried to discuss it, she insisted it was wedding stress, which seemed reasonable. My married friends shared that their wives had also acted differently before their weddings, making me feel reassured. Despite wanting to help with wedding preparations, a crucial work project demanded my full focus for a promotion. Feeling guilty about her handling everything alone, she assured me it was fine, with my best friend M providing assistance. My best friend, also 35, was helping my fiancé with wedding preparations. We'd been close friends since school, and he was even my best man. I appreciated that he got along well with my fiancé, as I didn't want any tension between them. At that time, he was going through a tough breakup, and the wedding preparations served as a distraction from his loneliness at the house he shared with his ex-girlfriend. I was thrilled about marrying the woman of my dreams, and despite long work hours, I felt energized because I saw it as an investment in my future family. Signs of trouble started surfacing, though. Despite my late work hours, my fiancé started coming home even later than me. When I questioned her, she made vague excuses about the challenges of bridal shopping, which I believed at the time. Despite my attempts to trust her, a feeling inside me suggested she wasn't telling me everything. One Sunday, I planned to spend the entire day with her, but she said she had a dress fitting. While she was in the shower, her phone, left on the bed, kept buzzing with notifications. I woke up due to the continuous vibrations, checked her phone, but it didn't recognize my face or accept the passcode we had shared. This was surprising since we had exchanged passwords when we started dating. Now, nearing marriage, she changed her passcode. When she saw me with her phone, she panicked briefly but composed herself. I asked why she changed her password. Surprised by my direct question, she took a moment to reply, saying it was to keep wedding dress pictures a surprise. While her excuse seemed reasonable, I wondered why she didn't just tell me instead of changing the passcode. It lingered in my mind all day. The next day at work, my fiancé's best friend called, unable to reach her for a dress-fitting appointment. I assumed she was at home and asked if they had the appointment the previous day. Her response made me feel like I asked a ridiculous question. The store was closed yesterday. Convinced my fiancé lied about her dress fitting, I needed to figure out what she was hiding. Deciding not to confront her directly, I received a surprising call from my best friend, who was helping with the wedding. He rarely called, either at his office or assisting with wedding preparations. After some small talk, he sensed something was wrong and asked. I debated whether to tell him about my fiancé's lie, but decided to share. I explained how she said she was going to the atelier, but her best friend claimed the appointment was today, not yesterday. He reassured me, saying she had a dress fitting for the dress rehearsal yesterday, and today's appointment was for the wedding dress. Though uncertain, I believed him, feeling guilty for doubting my fiancé. My best friend's explanations made sense, knowing he was in constant touch with my fiancé about wedding preparations. I breathed a sigh of relief and returned to work. Everything went smoothly for the following days. My future wife was still acting differently, but it was due to the stress of wedding preparations, despite her assurance that everything would be fine eventually. I informed her about a late client meeting, which got rescheduled for the next day. When I returned home that night, she wasn't there, so I called to ask where she was. She lied, claiming she was at home and expressed how much she missed me. Realizing her deceit, I told her I was already home and hung up. She arrived within half an hour, but I decided not to trust her completely. Despite the oddity, she returned with groceries, explaining she attended cooking classes as a surprise for me. I urged her not to lie, emphasizing the importance of honesty in our relationship. Despite her nodding and hugging me, I remained cautious. When I tried to kiss her, she deflected, insisting on putting away the groceries. Sensing something wrong with my fiancé, I made it a goal to uncover the truth behind her lies, changed passcode, and unusual behavior. That night, I pondered the possible reasons for her dishonesty, suspecting infidelity. Despite feeling guilty, I believed it necessary to address the issue before our marriage. Considering confiding in my best friend, I refrained due to his ongoing breakup, opting to investigate alone. I monitored my fiancé's activities, checking the CCTV camera outside our home. The CCTV revealed nothing suspicious, only her routine activities while I was at work. Left with no better options, I contemplated using her phone, but she had changed the passcode. With no other choice, I decided to follow her discreetly to discover the truth before our marriage. The next day, pretending to leave for work, I parked ahead, observed her leaving, and discreetly followed her, maintaining a considerable distance. She visited a thrift store and a florist before returning home. Despite her routine, my suspicions persisted. Planning to observe her for another day or two, I hoped to dispel doubts. Everything seemed fine when I returned home that evening, and the pattern continued the next day. Although she displayed no unusual behavior, my suspicion lingered. I considered the possibility that she sensed my surveillance but quickly dismissed the thought, keeping my discovery to myself and maintaining enough distance while following her car. On the third morning, my best friend called about planning my bachelor's party. I let him know I was okay with whatever he wanted to arrange. There was a lot of noise in the background, including some very loud songs, which I recognized as old Spanish tunes. Unable to ask him where he was due to another work call, I had to rush to the office urgently. Feeling there wasn't a point in following my fiancé since her routine remained consistent, I focused on my work at the office. The jeweler making our wedding rings called, stating my wife hadn't provided her ring size, so they contacted me. I called my wife to ask for her ring measurement, and to my surprise, loud old Spanish songs played in the background as soon as she answered. I questioned her whereabouts, and she mentioned being with her best friend, not mine. I conveyed the jeweler's message, and she assured me she would visit the store later to provide her ring measurement. Ending the call, something felt off. Maybe it was a coincidence that I heard the same Spanish songs with both my fiancé and best friend, but I doubted it. Calling my best friend again, he said he was at a cafe for a client meeting. However, I recognized my fiancé's high-pitched laugh in the background, which abruptly stopped. My friend quickly made an excuse and ended the call. They had no reason to lie if they were together, and they used to hang out for wedding-related matters. So why did they lie? I suspected the answer in my subconscious but wasn't ready to accept it. I chose to stay quiet until I had concrete evidence. Instead of going home directly after work, I visited my best friend's place. Not finding his car, I noted the time, sick-eyed, and proceeded home. Realizing it took only 23 minutes to get home from his place, the same time my fiancé claimed to return from a cooking class, heightened my suspicions. Upon arriving home, my fiancé was still not there. As I freshened up, I contemplated the turmoil in my life, about to get married, yet my fiancé might be cheating with my best friend. Despite a small hope that my fears were baseless, the looming suspicion persisted. The following day, I once again trailed my fiancé to the thrift store, her regular spot. She carried on with her usual routine, and just when frustration set in due to the lack of evidence, my best friend entered the thrift store. Yet, it didn't confirm anything. Perhaps he was merely helping with wedding preparations. He exited after 45 minutes, leaving me without substantial proof to confirm or deny my doubts, which grew increasingly frustrating. The next morning, during breakfast, I recalled leaving a file in the bedroom. Retrieving it, I found my fiancé getting dressed after her shower. Passing by, I noticed a hickey on her shoulder blades. Clearly, I hadn't given it to her, as it had been more than a month since our last pally moment. I stopped, and she appeared surprised. Tracing my finger over the hickey, she shivered. It was unsettling. I didn't need to ask. She started explaining on her own, claiming it was an insect bite from the previous day. Disbelieving, I told her it didn't seem like an insect. She grew scared and continued with more lies. I remained silent, more determined than ever to find evidence to confirm my suspicion. The first thing I did upon getting into my car was to check the CCTV recording of the previous day. As expected, my fiancé wasn't wearing an off-shoulder top. She got into the car in a dress fully covering her shoulder. Though seemingly useless, I spent that day following her, finally discovering something. She went straight to my best friend's house. I witnessed him coming out and hugging her. They stayed inside for almost the entire day. I knew that if I went there, my doubt would be confirmed, and I'd find them in bed together. Instead of ringing the doorbell, I used the spare key my friend had given me for emergencies. He had my house's spare key as well. I silently opened the door and went inside. Finding my fiancé's purse on the living room couch, I followed the noise to the bedroom. Taking light steps to avoid making any sound, I finally reached the bedroom. I could hear their voices clearly. My fiancé was telling him how I almost caught her that day due to the hickey. They had to be more careful. After some hums, all I could hear were pally sounds. I opened the door very slowly and saw my fiancé in bed with my best friend. I took a photo with my phone and then shut the door. Returning to the living room, the bedroom door opened again, and my fiancé came out laughing. Her smile vanished as soon as she saw me. Wearing my best friend's shirt and nothing else, she stood there frozen, and my best friend, who followed her out, also froze upon seeing me. Angry and unable to think straight, I punched my best friend in the jaw. I told my fiancé I never wanted to see her face again and stormed out of his house. Instead of going to work, I went straight home, lacking the energy to face the betrayal, which stung from my best friend and my woman. Just as I was exiting my car, my fiancé arrived home too. I demanded she leave my property, but she didn't listen and followed me inside, tears in her eyes, begging me to listen. I knew nothing she said could make their actions okay, but I decided to hear her out. I told her to speak. She was initially shocked, wondering how I agreed, but then she began explaining. The whole situation started when she began planning our wedding after my best friend's breakup. She claimed to be consoling him because he was really low due to the breakup, and one thing led to another, resulting in them kissing. She insisted it never meant to be anything more, just helping him move on. I was just helping him and moving on, she said while crying. The audacity of this woman. You were helping him move on by sleeping with him, I snapped in a harsh tone. She tensed at my voice but continued apologizing, expressing a willingness to do anything for my forgiveness. She pleaded, emphasizing that we had our whole life in front of us, and I cannot let it go because of one mistake she had made. The more she spoke, the angrier I got. She was telling me to let go of her cheating like it was nothing. Despite emphasizing the importance of loyalty, she did that. I thanked my luck that I found this out before the wedding. Something came to my mind then. I could easily end our relationship right now and tell everyone that the wedding is off. The wedding was in 5 days, or I could make her and my best friend actually suffer for the betrayal. I decided to go with the second one. I let my fiancé beg some more. She kept telling me how everything can be perfect from now on. She told me this is our chance to turn a new leaf and start our dream life together. I let her convince me that I should not cancel anything and to let loose in the bachelor party. She told me that it was a one-in-a-lifetime thing. All our guests were coming before so they could attend the bachelor party as well. I thought it was perfect and then agreed to not cancel anything. She couldn't believe that this was happening. She must have thought that there was no chance that I could forgive her for cheating. And she was right about that. She was just going to find out later what I did with cheaters. The day of the bachelor party came, and I met my best friend again. He insisted that he came to my house instead of the club we were going to. As soon as he entered the house, he started telling how sorry he was and how he didn't mean to ruin my relationship with my fiancé. I told him it was okay, and I forgave them. I told them that everyone made mistakes. I was giving them another chance. I went to the venue with him and met my other friends. None knew that I was faking it here and had no intention to actually do this or whatever. I acted like I was having the time of my life here that night. I kept thinking about their betrayal. My fiancé was staying at her parents' house until the wedding, and that was for the good only. I didn't think I could see her face and not think about her betrayal. My thoughts went to the day he called me up and told me that she was going for the dress rehearsal dress fitting. He lied to me because she was with him, and they must have known that. I had talked to her best friend and knew that the store was closed. I had decided that I was going to end everything over dinner, so everyone knew what had actually happened and why the wedding was being called off. My fiancée was coming with her parents to dinner. I reached the venue earlier and talked with the staff to arrange a projector for me. The guests started arriving. Everyone in our immediate families and our closest friends were present for the dinner. None knew, but I had told the officiant to come a bit late. My fiancé started panicking about the officiant not being there, but I smiled at her and told her that it's fine. I then said to everyone that to pass the time while the officiant gets here, I had to share something with everyone. Someone in the wedding party said that I can wait to make the toast later, but I said that I wanted to do it then itself. I began my speech by telling everyone how I met my fiancé and how my relationship had been so perfect. My fiancé looked at me with tears while she smiled at me. She was smiling because she didn't know what was coming for her. I told her that I'm really grateful for everything she had done for me throughout. I told everyone how she had always prioritized me and my family first. I told everyone that she is the most thoughtful woman. She thought so much about others that she started sleeping with my best friend just to help him move on. As soon as I said that line, everyone got tense. My fiancé got frozen on her spot. There was pin-drop silence in the hall as I moved my attention to my then best friend. I told everyone how we have been best friends since school. I shared a memory of how in school we punched a guy because he asked out my best friend's then girlfriend. "You really were like a brother to me," I said, looking him in the eye as I pulled out my phone and projected the picture I took that day. Everyone gasped, seeing my fiancé and best friend undressed in bed. Turning to my fiancé, I found her looking at the floor. I approached and told her to never come in front of me again. I asked for my ring back. Not that I cared much about it, but I didn't want her to have that piece of commitment. She handed it to me with shaky hands. I mentioned calling movers to relocate her stuff, warning her not to enter my property again. Whispers circulated and others stared. I thanked everyone for coming and declared the wedding over, shocking Nguyen. It was clear the wedding wouldn't happen. I said I'd send her the bill for everything, shocking her again. I shrugged, telling her she wasn't responsible anymore. Her infidelity led to the wedding's cancellation, so she'd pay for it. Exiting the hall, I never looked back at my fiancé or best friend. They made no attempts to convince me this time. Movers took her stuff the next day. I ensured nothing of hers was left to avoid excuses to return. I didn't need to send her the bills. Vendors contacted her directly. Blocking her on social media and her number, I avoided negativity. Continuing with my head held high, I heard my ex-fiancé couldn't meet anyone's eyes and had gone to another state to stay with her cousins. My best friend never contacted me after that day, sending my house keys through a mutual friend. Everyone knew of their betrayal, facing the consequences of their karma. Living my life, faithful to my fiancé and a good friend, I didn't deserve what they did. Taking therapy sessions to move on and lead a happy life, I thank everyone for listening. Update. 6 months have passed since I called off my wedding, almost a year in total. A mutual friend informed me that my ex-fiancé started dating my best friend, the one she betrayed me with, 2 months after the wedding was called off. Initially happy, they became gossip fodder as others found out, leading to problems. Eventually, my ex-best friend cheated on her with a colleague, and she learned about it months later, prompting a breakup. I share this since I've already shared everything else. Update. It's been 2 years since I found out my fiancé cheated on me with my best friend. In my last update, I mentioned she also broke up with him. Following the breakup, she attempted to contact me despite being blocked everywhere. It happened at a party, and she thought it was fitting to ask for forgiveness there since everything started at a party. I laughed, making it clear that even if she were the last person on earth, I wouldn't get back with her. Embarrassed, she quickly ran away and never tried to approach me again. My ex-best friend also attempted to talk to me post-breakup. He explained he didn't come earlier to give me space, and emphasized that our friendship was crucial, meaning more than any girl. I questioned why he dated my ex-fiancé after I called off the wedding, knowing I wouldn't like that. He was shocked, thinking I didn't know about them. I laughed, stating I knew everything but didn't care. I told him I don't want friends like him anymore. Therapy has helped me realize I can't carry the burden of others' mistakes forever. I've started to let things go, and the betrayal doesn't hurt as much now. I'm content with my life, having earned a promotion through hard work. Good friends and supportive family have been crucial. Trying to stay at my home was difficult due to too many memories with my ex-fiancé. I decided to sell it and move to another property. My friends and family helped me settle in, and shifting feels like the start of a new phase in life. I'm also dating a beautiful woman from my work who knows everything that happened to me. She's extremely understanding and we're taking things slow. Time may reveal if she's the one for me. Trusting people completely is hard, but I'm trying. Despite the initial heartbreak, time heals everything. Back then, I thought I wouldn't date anyone again, but here I am. I take everything that happened as a lesson not to trust anyone too much. People can deceive us. This experience also taught me the importance of being sure about life partners. My fiancé wanted to marry me for a comfortable life, whereas I believed in mutual love. I turned out to be wrong. She knew I'd take full responsibility for her if we married. That was the main reason she wanted the wedding so badly and even approached me after her breakup.
My wife wants my approval to be with a coworker, offering me the same freedom with another woman. We've been happily married for just over a year, with a few minor arguments. We never discussed an open marriage before. Recently, she asked if I'd be with someone else if given the chance, but I declined because I'm satisfied with her. Her reaction surprised me. She seemed annoyed and admitted she would be with someone else. After some coaxing, she revealed it was a colleague she finds attractive. I asked if they had a sensual relationship, but she denied it. The conversation ended, and feeling suspicious, I checked her phone. I found explicit photos she had sent to the coworker, and they had been closeness-ing. Now that it's out in the open, she wants my permission for them to meet under specific conditions, keeping it purely sensual. I was shocked, as she had never been flirty with others before. She confessed she finds him attractive and thinks it's a one-time opportunity. She emphasized it's just about physical attraction, not emotions. She mentioned his physical attributes, but insisted it wouldn't go beyond closeness, and she would regret not trying it. Despite telling her I only want her, she insists I use the free pass she offered. She even suggested finding someone else for me through her friends. Unsure of what to say, I told her I'd think about it. We love each other deeply, making this decision challenging. Update. I had an important discussion with my wife last night about our situation and our marriage's future. I started by informing her that I won't be using the free pass. She was upset, believing it was immature and petty. She thought I was trying to prove I'm better than her and don't need other women. I explained my decision comes from genuine love for her, both emotionally and physically. She argued it's unfair, given my past experiences with more women before our marriage. She insisted it's only fair she gets the same opportunity. I questioned her about the coworker, wanting to understand how she knew so much about him. After over 30 minutes of questioning, she admitted to some physical contact but nothing more. They planned to meet pending our discussion, and she expressed feeling awful about it since I didn't take the free pass. I insisted on meeting him beforehand, and she agreed to bring him over. Trying to ease my upset, she suggested I might enjoy it, referencing past roleplay we had done. She even offered to video it for me, but I told her I'd only know my feelings afterward. I explained that if I'm only upset and not turned on, I won't approve of them meeting again. She understood, and we had great closeness last night. She's been extra caring and even prepared breakfast, and gave me a massage this morning. It's clear she truly cares for me and wants me to be happy. In essence, we now have an arrangement that if I don't like how it goes the first time they meet up, they'll end it. If she can't break it off, I'll seek counseling and prepare for the worst. Update. My wife met her coworker last weekend, and without going into all the details, they were closeness. Afterward, I discussed boundaries with her, but she quickly got upset, claiming I had no right to dictate what two consenting adults do in the bedroom, even after I became more accepting of her being with him. This left a bad taste. Later, I asked if I could join them next time, and she seemed okay, but needed her coworker's approval. He wasn't comfortable, so I couldn't be there. Is it common not to set boundaries in open or baby relationships? Update. Last weekend was a breaking point for me. She left on Saturday morning without showing any care for me, making me take pictures for the guy before leaving. She didn't even kiss me goodbye. She promised to be back that night, but she didn't show up. The next morning, she told me she stayed the night with him without asking or informing me. That's not the worst part. That night, she invited one of his friends, and things happened without consulting me. When she returned home, she shared all this without considering my feelings. When I got visibly upset, she dismissed it as unmanly and laughed. I couldn't tolerate it anymore. It was clear she no longer cared for me. No spouse would say anything like this to their partner if they actually cared for them. I was just shocked. At no point in our marriage until the other week did I notice any signs that she would be this way. She had always been the most loving, caring girl that I had ever met. It's like a flip switched when she met that guy and changed into a different person. I didn't know one person could change someone that much and that quickly. I'm 99% sure that she's going to end up dating this guy. She has spent the past few weekends together with him and even talks about him around me. The other night I told her that if she doesn't at least put in boundaries that I will leave. She said okay and laughed a lot. Without saying another word, I packed up some bags and booked a room at the nearest hotel. I've told my brother about this situation, and he has offered for me to come stay with him for a little while. I ended up going to his place for the night. She sent me some texts that night and the next day. She was acting upset and confused as to why I left, and she was saying that she missed me the next day. I knew we needed to go back to my house so that there wouldn't be as much of a chance that I would lose it. My brother went with me to help. When we got there, my wife was trying to talk to me. I had nothing to say to her at the moment, so I just ignored her and tried to get past her. She was grabbing me and trying to hold me. My brother helped get her off of me and told her that he would call the cops if she didn't stop messing with me. She ended up leaving. I haven't heard from her since. This situation has destroyed me. I tried to let her do this to make her happy. I didn't want it in the first place, but I tried to make myself like it to please her. I never saw any signs or anything that she would be this manipulative and this bad of a person before we got married. I don't know where any of this came from. She was the most amazing, thoughtful person ever. Now that this has happened, my whole outlook on life and relationships is different. So what advice would you guys give me? Whether it's next steps in dealing with my current wife or in the future, when I'm back in the dating game, how do I tell our families and friends? How do I speak to my wife about it? I'm really having a tough time handling all this. Update. I left her last week and went to stay with my brother. After talking to him and reading several comments, I figured it would be a good idea to try to go back and stay at my house to make sure that I wouldn't lose it. The next day, when we got divorced, I decided to go back there. My brother was going with me too. When we got there, my wife was trying to talk to me and grab me. I ignored her the whole time and pretty much acted like she didn't exist. She got pretty rough and was beating on my chest. I finally pushed away. My brother told her that if she doesn't leave me alone, that he would call the cops. She finally left after that. I didn't hear from her the rest of that night. The next day I did receive a picture of her and her new coworker. It was a normal selfie of them together. There was no text with it. I showed her to my brother, and he said that she must be sick in the head to do that. I finally met up with a divorce attorney for an initial meeting and consultation. It went well, and he told me things that I needed to know in preparation for the divorce. He said that the pictures and videos I have of them will be helpful evidence. The only problem with the situation is that she may prove that I agreed to everything, even though there was manipulation involved. My brother and I went over to my parents to sit down and talk with them about what was going on. They were shocked to hear this about her and almost didn't believe it at first. My brother had my back and confirmed with them that everything I said was true. They wanted to talk to her, but I told them not to. The next step was telling her parents. I debated about this for a while, as I did not know if it was my place to do so. After a while, I finally decided that it would be best to. I know that if I didn't tell them first, she would probably tell them awful lies about me. I set up a time to meet them at their place. I went over alone. After a while of just sitting there and having small talk, I finally built up the courage to tell them what was going on. The looks on their faces were unbelievable. They looked disgusted. They had never seen this side of their daughter. I was surprised that they didn't put any of the blame on me. They understood that I loved her and wanted to do whatever I could to make her happy. They even hugged me before I left. We were all in tears. They knew that divorcing her was the last thing I wanted to do, but understood that I had to at this point. This weekend, I spent most of my time talking to my lawyer and hanging out with my brother at home. On Saturday night, my wife texted me, saying she was coming over. I replied, telling her she wasn't welcome right now. Despite my message, she showed up about 20 minutes later. At that point, I felt like I had no choice but to talk to her. She began by saying that she had been talking to her parents, and they were very angry with her, mentioning the possibility of us getting a divorce. I hoped they wouldn't tell her that, as I hadn't even broken the news to her yet. I hadn't planned on telling her in person. I had planned for it all to go through the lawyer. She criticized me, calling my actions childish, and suggesting I wasn't a real man for talking to her parents before her. I explained that due to her manipulative behavior, I didn't feel comfortable talking to her directly. I reached out to her parents first to prevent her from lying to them and accusing me of everything. She kept asking if it was true that I was really filing for a divorce, and I confirmed that I was. She started sobbing uncontrollably and didn't really say anything for a good 15 minutes. She finally stopped and asked me why I was doing this and why I didn't give her a heads up. I explained that throughout all of this, she has been super manipulative, treating me like I don't exist. I've been humiliated by her and the co-worker. She promised she would stop if I took her back. I told her I couldn't. She finally left after that. The next morning, I woke up to a lot of texts and missed calls from her, mostly long messages and voicemails of her apologizing and explaining how much she loves me. It really hurt to listen to them because I was reminded of our past and how much I loved her. I was crying like crazy at this point, and it took everything in me not to respond back to her. I just kept reminding myself of what she has done to me in the last few weeks since she left. That night, I received many texts from her friends telling me that I need to take her back. They were cussing me out and telling me how wrong it was of me to go to her parents. They said that now they are the only people she has. This has all been so crazy. I can't believe how emotional the past few days have been. I can't believe that even her parents are on my side. I do feel bad for telling them first and making them turn on her, but I'm glad they're on my side. Her friends continue to attack me and send threats. I haven't heard from my wife since she sent the long texts and messages. I'm guessing that she is either staying with the co-worker or her friends, as her parents are against her at the moment. I'm surprised I was able to stand up this strongly against her. I hope to continue to be able to do so. I think that this weekend was big for me. It showed me that I do have the strength to stand up to her and leave her.